After losing my husband, I discovered 30M my daughter's shocking demand transformed us forever. Eleanor stood frozen in her small kitchen, the smell of burnt toast drifting lightly in the air. The newspaper lay open on the table, the headline startling her back to the present. 30 million inheritance unclaimed. A chill swept through her as the words danced in her mind. Just a year after saying goodbye to her beloved husband, a local veteran who dedicated his life to serving their community, this news seemed both a cruel joke and a lifeline. She clutched her chest as tears pooled in her eyes. How could something so monumental come after such tremendous loss? In the days that followed, Eleanor found herself repeatedly rereading legal documents, her heart racing with the possibilities this newfound wealth could bring. Her dreams suddenly shifted from scraping by and making ends meet to envisioning a future where their quaint, creaky home bloomed with renovations, where her daughter Lily could attend the finest schools. The thought of giving back to the town that sheltered them brought warmth to her chest, momentarily easing the ache of her husband's absence. Had he left her this as a sign, a test of resilience? But those dreams flickered in and out like a candle's flame when Lily stomped into the room later that week, her adolescent fury palpable. "Mom," she cried, "we have to find him. We have to use the money to find my dad." The word struck Eleanor like a slap. Her heart dropped. Lily was referring to the man who walked out on them years ago, chasing fortune instead of family. How could her daughter possibly want to pursue someone who had done nothing but cause them pain? "Lily, he abandoned us. You can't want anything to do with him," she pleaded, tears thickening her voice. But her daughter's eyes flared with frustration, a mix of grief and anger mirroring her own. The tension boiled between them, thick enough to slice. Lily wanted closure that Eleanor couldn't bear to acknowledge. Each argument tore at Eleanor's heartstrings, ripping her between two conflicting worlds, the love of a mother fostering her daughter's hopes, and the pain of betrayal securing her own. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A shadow seemed to linger over their quaint Maplewood home, the neighbors now gossiping about the sudden fortune that had fallen into Eleanor's lap. She felt the stares, the whispers, the weight of expectation pressing down. Was she supposed to display her newfound wealth outwardly or keep it a secret, like the grief she felt? As tensions escalated, Eleanor's heart pulsed painfully with every conflicted thought. What was the essence of family? Was it wealth, emotional ties, or the legacy of love her husband had built? Clarity slipped through her fingers like sand. In her quiet moments of reflection, surrounded by photos of her husband, Eleanor felt his spirit guiding her. Do what's right, he had often told her. But what was right? As she stood at the crossroads, the choices healed and hurt all at once. Lily's final ultimatum rang in her ears, merging desperate hope with an unforgiving reality. Would the dreams of tomorrow bloom? Or would they wilt in the search for something unreachable? Eleanor woke the next morning to a gray, overcast sky that mirrored her mood. The house felt quieter than usual, the oppressive weight of uncertainty hanging in the air like thick fog. She glanced at the kitchen table, still littered with paperwork and newspaper clippings about the inheritance. Each piece felt like a burden rather than a blessing. Today, she thought, she would need to face Lily again. Lily, usually bright and full of energy, had retreated into herself since their last fight. Eleanor felt a pang of guilt. She was supposed to be the pillar of strength for them both, yet lately it felt like her daughter was drifting away. As Eleanor prepared breakfast, she made a quiet determination. Maybe today was the day to listen, really listen to what Lily needed. When Lily finally shuffled into the kitchen, her eyes were puffy and rimmed with tiredness. She slumped into a chair, and silence enveloped them, heavy and anxious. Eleanor busied herself with the toast, stealing glances at her daughter. But today, it was Lily who spoke first. "Mom, I need answers," Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know he hurt us. I know he left. But I can't help thinking, what if he changed? What if he is different now?" Eleanor placed the toast down, torn. All her instincts screamed to protect Lily from the pain and disappointment she might face, but the desperation in her daughter's voice mirrored her own. "Honey, your dad chose money over us. What makes you think he's worth finding?" Lily's frustration bubbled back to the surface, but it quickly dissipated into tears. "Because I'm a part of him, Mom. If he's living this great life, I want to know what he loves. I want to know who I am too." The floodgates opened for Eleanor as she listened. Here was her daughter, not just asking to pursue the past but desperately searching for a connection, something tangible amidst the wreckage. Eleanor's heart sank as she saw the pain in Lily's eyes, a reflection of her own turmoil 30 years ago, when she first fell in love with the man who'd become her husband. "Please, Mom, just help me find him." For a moment they stood at the edge of hope and despair, everything unspoken hanging between them like a fragile thread. Eleanor nodded slowly, feeling that tiny glimmer of possibility ignite. "Okay, Lily. We'll search, but only to understand, not to chase the past." A small, tentative smile broke through Lily's sadness, and in that moment, Eleanor sensed a shift within the both of them. It was more than looking for a man. It was about rediscovering themselves. That evening, as they sat on the living room floor surrounded by old family albums, Eleanor asked, "What do you want to know most about him?" "I want to know if he ever thought about us. Does he even care?" Lily's voice trembled, the weight of her question settling heavily between them. Eleanor felt a shiver run down her spine. The uncertainty of the answer scared her. What if he didn't? What if he had simply moved on, leaving them behind forever? Determined not to sink into despair again, Eleanor took a breath, pulling strength from the love she still felt for her husband. "We'll find out together, and whatever we discover, we'll deal with it. But remember, we are a family, the two of us." The bond between them seemed to strengthen, and for the first time since the inheritance, Eleanor began to feel a flicker of hope. Perhaps this journey would lead them both toward healing. But as they flipped through pages of memories, a haunting thought surfaced. What if they found the answers they weren't ready to face? With the night deepening around them, Eleanor and Lily made their plans to search for the man who had left them behind. And deep within her heart, Eleanor wondered about the surprises still waiting to unfold. Was the past truly gone? Or was it on the verge of breaking through once more? The next day, the air felt charged with anticipation. Eleanor and Lily, fueled by a mix of hope and trepidation, sat at the kitchen table, laptops open, ready to uncover the mysteries of their past. A sense of purpose hung between them, yet the specter of uncertainty loomed. Eleanor sipped her coffee, the bitter warmth grounding her. "So where do we start?" she asked, trying to mask her nerves. Lily took a deep breath, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. "Let us look for any public records, maybe he's registered somewhere." The determination in her voice brought a rush of warmth to Eleanor's heart. They were taking a step, however shaky, toward discovery. As they researched, each click of the mouse felt heavy with consequence. Eleanor studied her daughter, the light returning to her eyes as they scrolled through various sites. But beneath Lily's enthusiasm lay an undercurrent of anxiety. She wanted answers, but what if those answers led to more pain? "Mom," Lily said after a pause, "what if he doesn't want to be found? What if he's moved on? What if he has?" Eleanor countered gently, "You deserve to know the truth, no matter what it is." Lily nodded, but the shadow of doubt didn't leave her gaze. They pressed on, diving deeper into the digital world together. 1 hour turned into 2, and just when Eleanor thought they would hit a wall, Lily's voice broke through the static hum of the computer. "Mom, look at this." Eleanor leaned in closer, squinting at the screen. There it was. A name, a new address, and a wealth of details Eleanor hadn't expected. James Davis. The name hung in the air. It felt surreal, like a ghost returning from the past. Can we go there?" Lily's excitement was palpable, mingled with fear. Eleanor hesitated. "We need to think this through. This is a big step." She felt her heart race at the prospect of facing a man she had thought was lost to them forever. But Lily's eyes lit up with an undeniable determination. "Yes, I need to know if he cares. Will you at least come with me to the address?" The question struck a chord within Eleanor. Here was this young girl, her daughter, filled with hope yet balancing on the edge of despair. A part of her wanted to shield Lily from potential heartbreak, but another part recognized that this journey might be what they both needed. Okay, she finally said, the weight of her decision settling heavily on her shoulders. We'll go together. They spent the rest of the afternoon arranging their plans. Eleanor found herself oscillating between excitement and dread, a cocktail of emotions she had seldom experienced. The closer they got to the idea of confronting James, the more Eleanor's heart raced. Memories of their life together danced in her mind, the joy, the pain, the abandonment. As the evening crept upon them, they managed to arrange a visit for the upcoming Saturday. An unsettled silence hung over the house. They both knew that the clock was ticking, leading them toward the inevitable confrontation. Later that night, Eleanor lay awake, staring at the shadows on her bedroom ceiling. Had they really prepared for what awaited them? Would James offer explanations or leave them with more questions? Her mind buzzed with possibilities and fears. Just then her phone buzzed on the nightstand, cutting through the night's stillness. An email notification flashed on the screen. Curious, she opened it. It was from a law firm, stating that their investigation regarding the inheritance was moving forward. And then there it was, the mention of a possible meeting with James himself. Eleanor's heart sank. Could this really be happening? Was she ready to face him, not just for her sake but for Lily's? As uncertainty gripped her, she wondered, were they stepping into a new life or one filled with old wounds? The lines between hope and heartache began to blur. And deep down, she realized that confronting the past could bring consequences they hadn't anticipated. The day finally arrived, each tick of the clock sending Eleanor's heartbeat racing. As she prepared for the visit, her stomach twisted in tight knots. She wanted to be strong for Lily, but the weight of the past felt crushing. She glanced in the mirror and caught a glimpse of her reflection, eyes wide, cheeks slightly flushed. Was this really happening? Mom, you okay? Lily peeked from the living room, where she was adjusting her jacket for what felt like the 100th time. Yeah, just adjusting. Eleanor tried to muster a smile, but it felt forced, like a fragile facade. The car ride felt like a surreal dream. The streets blurred as they drove, thoughts bouncing around in Eleanor's mind. Lily's nervous energy filled the air, and she kept glancing out the window, fidgeting with her fingers. Do you think he'll remember us? Lily asked, breaking the thick silence. Eleanor took a breath. I hope he does. But we can't control what he thinks or feels. A shaky silence settled in before Lily whispered, what if he doesn't want to see us? What if he's moved on completely? Then we'll have to accept that, Eleanor replied softly. The truth was, acceptance felt like a distant shore. They were still wading through uncertainty. When they finally arrived at the tidy suburban house, Eleanor fought the urge to turn the car around. The moment felt like standing at the edge of an abyss. They stepped out, a shared look of trepidation passing between them. Let us do this, Lily said, her voice steady despite the tension. Eleanor nodded, gripping her daughter's hand tightly, drawing strength from that simple connection as they approached the front door. Eleanor's heart drummed loudly in her chest. Her palms felt clammy. She had rehearsed possibilities over and over, but reality would inevitably twist those plans. With a deep breath, Lily rang the doorbell. Moments stretched endlessly until the door swung open. A man stood before them, slightly older but unmistakably familiar. His dark hair streaked with gray, his features lined with age but still branded with a hint of the youth Eleanor had once known. Eleanor? He whispered, shock washing over his face. Eleanor's heart sank lower than she thought possible. There was an ache in his eyes. Had he loved them? Had he missed them? Questions swirled around like a storm, but they felt trapped in the moment. James, she finally managed to say, her voice almost breaking. Who is this? He asked, eyes flickering to Lily, who still stood holding onto Eleanor's hand. Dad, it's me. Lily. Those words hung in the air heavy. The silence stretched painfully as James's face fell. A mix of disbelief and regret contorted his features. Lily, his voice faltered as realization dawned. I can't believe, but Eleanor couldn't let him finish. Her emotions burst forth. You left us. You just disappeared. We deserve answers, James. Wait, please, he started, hands raised, but pain and betrayal filled the space between them, suffocating. Mom, it's okay, Lily said softly, stepping forward. I want to hear what he has to say. Eleanor felt torn between anger and the need for understanding. How could they put aside years of hurt to open this door? And yet, Right there stood the man who held the answers they had sought for so long. Eleanor held her breath, realizing this was the moment everything could change. The confrontation could unravel old wounds or begin a new chapter. James stood before them, his expression a mix of regret and hope. Without thinking, she asked, "Why did you leave us?" Just as the words left her lips, Eleanor felt the weight of every emotion that had haunted her all these years collide head-on with reality. As James opened his mouth to reply, a pang of fear gripped her heart. Was she ready for the truth? The moment stretched into an electric silence, and Eleanor could feel a shift in the air. Everything was about to change again. James's lips parted, but no sound came out. The look in his eyes was both pained and confused. Eleanor's heart thudded like a drum in her chest, each beat pushing her doubts to the surface. The years rushed back, memories of a broken family, silent dinners, unanswered questions. "Eleanor," he finally whispered, as if saying her name could somehow bridge all the chasms between them. "Don't try to make this easy," she shot back, her voice trembling with suppressed anger. "You made your choices and we were left to make sense of a mess you created." Lily squeezed her hand tighter. "Dad, just tell us the truth." James closed his eyes, inhaling deeply as if gathering strength. "It's not that simple. I never meant to hurt you." "Not simple?" Eleanor cut in, loss raging through her as she fought against the flood of memories. "You walked away, James. You left us alone, and nothing could be simpler than your absence." James swallowed hard, seemingly searching for words that wouldn't come. He looked at Lily, tears pooling in his weary eyes. I thought I was protecting you both. You have to understand, I wasn't in a good place. I felt swallowed by everything." "Is that your excuse?" Eleanor couldn't contain her bitterness. "You had a family, a wife and a daughter who needed you. And you just ran away." "This isn't going how I imagined," he admitted, looking older than Eleanor remembered. "I thought I could come back." "And come back?" Eleanor scoffed. "You think it's that easy? You can't just waltz in after years and expect us to forget how much you've hurt us." Lily, breaking the charged atmosphere, stepped forward, her voice trembling yet resolute. "Mom, maybe he needs a chance to explain. Just give him a moment." Eleanor's eyes flickered back to her daughter, seeing the raw hope shining through the pain. She took a deep breath, trying to center herself. "All right, James. But you better start talking." James nodded, his brow furrowed. "It was a spiral that I couldn't control. Depression. It's a dark hole. I thought isolating myself would shield you, but instead—" He hesitated, shame flickering across his face. "I lost myself. I lost you." The silence felt thicker now, filled with the weight of unspoken words. Anxiety gnawed at Eleanor's stomach. Would this explanation be enough? Would it ever be enough? "What were you afraid of?" Lily asked quietly, her voice now tinged with genuine concern. James looked at Lily, and the expression on his face softened. "Afraid of failing you both. And afraid you'd see the man I had become. I thought you'd be better off without me." Eleanor felt the tighten in her chest begin to loosen, just a fraction. "You don't get it, do you? We felt abandoned, not protected. You thought that leaving would spare us pain, but it made us feel worthless." James flinched, the truth visibly striking him. "I know. I can't change what I did. But I want to do better. I want to find a way back if you'll let me." Lily's eyes flicked toward Eleanor, searching for a sign. Eleanor's heart felt like a wrestling match, torn between anger and something she hadn't expected, a small glimmer of hope. "Will you promise?" Lily's voice cut through the tension. "That you'll be honest with us? No more lies." James looked at both of them, his expression earnest. "Promise. I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild our trust." For a moment, the heavy weight of the past hung in the air, caught between them like a delicately balanced scale about to tip. But in that brief moment of sincerity, Eleanor realized they were faced with a choice to either stay trapped in resentment or take a risk on forgiveness. Taking a deep breath, she felt a sense of resolve building. "If we're going to do this, we all need to be truthful. No more secrets. No more running." Her eyes locked onto James's, fierce and unyielding. Just then the heaviness shifted, sprinkled with another layer of uncertainty. Could this really be a new beginning? Or were they simply getting tangled in more complicated webs? As James nodded, allowing a flicker of hope to show through his regrets, a thought struck Eleanor. What else might James reveal? And the weight of that additional question loomed large as uncertainty once again wrapped around her heart. Eleanor's breath hitched as another wave of silence washed over them. The air crackled with unspoken words, hovering just above the surface, threatening to pull them all under. She felt the sting of tears threatening her resolve, a peculiar mix of anger and something softer, an almost tender ache to hear whatever truth lurked in James's heart. "James," she said, forcing her voice to steady, "if you're going to do better, you have to be strong enough to tell us everything." He blinked away tears, and the corners of his mouth twisted tight as if struggling against years of buried shame. I didn't just walk away from you too. I walked away from everything including myself." "Then find yourself again," Lily said, her youth pushing forward her strength. "What is stopping you?" Eleanor gazed at her daughter, feeling both admiration and a surge of protective instinct. This wasn't the little girl who once cried for her father. This was a young woman confronting him with quiet courage. She wanted to reach over, to tell Lily to shield herself from the disappointment she might still face. But could she stifle her own daughter's quest for understanding? For a connection? "It's harder than it sounds," James began, his voice cracking. "I fell into a darkness and I barely found my way back. I lost track of who I was without you. I thought if I disappeared, so would my failures." Eleanor clenched her fists, feeling each word strike like a pulse. "So you vanished instead? You didn't think about how we would feel? The nights we cried, the dinners where we waited for you? I thought about it every day." He blurted out, his voice rising. "I hated myself for what I did. I thought it was better to cut the cord to just right." She snapped, cutting him off, "because pain is so much easier when you're alone. When you thought we'd be better off without you." "You don't understand," he said, eyes pleading. "I thought my absence was an act of love. In my mind, I was freeing you from an anchor that I had become. But we needed you, James." Eleanor's voice trembled. "What you viewed as a burden was just being human. We all struggle. Loved ones don't just vanish." "I was scared," he said, raising his hands in desperation. "Scared of failing you both. Scared you would look at me and see a man who hadn't lived up to who he should have been." And with that, Eleanor's anger flickered, changed shape. She found herself searching for the parts of him that felt like family. Their past painted a complicated picture, a tapestry woven with love, pain, and moments that felt both wonderful and terrible. Eleanor felt her heart's tightness loosen. "It's going to take time, James. It might take forever." "I know," he whispered. "But please let me try." Lily took a tentative step forward, her voice soft but steady. "I want to hear everything, Dad. No more secrets. Just the truth." A deep breath filled the space, heavy with implications. Could they really do this? Could acceptance take root in the soil of their heartbreak? Eleanor risked a glance at James, a flicker of hope igniting between them, but there was still heaviness. "What if the truth is something we can't handle?" Eleanor asked, her chest tightening once more. James hesitated, wrestling with a thought that weighed on him. There is something else. Something I never told you both. It's about why I left and what I lost, what I done." Eleanor's heart slammed against her ribcage. What more could it be? An avalanche of fear twisted in her stomach, and for the first time, she wondered if hope was just a fragile illusion. As that haunting look settled in James's eyes, a sickening realization began to creep in. What if this truth altered everything again? She gripped Lily's hand tighter, her own uncertainty surging. "What are you saying, James?" He looked between them, fear and vulnerability intertwining in his gaze. "I think you both deserve to know about the choice I made." The tension snapped, all the air rushing from the room, leaving Eleanor suspended between what was and what could be, a confrontation swirling in her mind about to change the course of their lives once more. Would this reveal be their bridge over the chasm, or another divide they couldn't cross? The room grew thick with silence, as if each word James had yet to say carried the weight of their shattered past. Eleanor's mouth felt dry, like she was standing in the middle of a desert. Her heart raced, pounding a frantic rhythm as she waited for him to speak. James shifted uncomfortably, the tension in his shoulders making him seem smaller, more fragile than before. "I wasn't just a man who walked away," he said finally, voice low and shaky. "I made a decision that changed everything. For us all." Lily leaned in, her expression a mix of confusion and determination. What kind of decision? James took a breath that seemed to echo through the quiet. It's about the job, the one I was offered in another state. The one that pulled me away. What do you mean? Eleanor pressed, her protective instincts flaring. You took that job because you thought it would be better for us? No, he said, shaking his head, it was more than that. I didn't just leave work. I left the family. The job was an escape, a way to avoid facing the truth. I didn't take the promotion. And the money. Eleanor's heart sank, suddenly understanding the layers of pain that had fed into their rift. You had a choice, James. You could have fought for us. I thought I was saving us from my failures. But I ended up just running. His eyes glistened with unshed tears. I looked for a way out without realizing I was building walls. What are you saying? Lily's voice quaked as she sought clarity. Was it just about work? No. James cried, frustration breaking through, his fists clenched. It was about my fear of being inadequate. I couldn't face the man I had become. I was terrified that you both would grow to resent me. The silence grew heavy again, but now it held a different kind of weight. Eleanor's breath caught as she processed his words. In the core of his fears, she felt a flicker of understanding. She had been afraid too. And you think leaving was the answer? Eleanor's voice softened, but her gaze remained fierce. You only deepened our pain. This is about more than just you running away, James. It's about the lives you left behind. I know, he said brokenly. And the truth is, I faced something unimaginable while I was gone, something that forces me to confront my choices, and it's worse than you think. Eleanor felt panic make its way back into her heart. What do you mean? What can be worse than this? James swallowed hard, the flicker of guilt transforming into dread. I almost lost everything. I had it all but lost my moral compass. I got involved in something dangerous that was way over my head. What do you mean? Lily echoed, bewildered. I got involved. With the wrong people, he confessed, voice trembling. Spiraled out of control. I wanted to make money, and I thought I could do it without anyone getting hurt. Eleanor felt the world stand still, her stomach flipping. How far did it go, James? What did you do? I lost a part of myself, Eleanor, he whispered, hanging his head as if the shame were a physical weight. I didn't just walk away. I betrayed us and I hurt people. For a moment, shock held Eleanor and Lily in its grip, just standing there breathing. She felt a tidal wave of emotions crashing over her: anger, betrayal, hurt, and something that almost resembled sympathy. And somewhere deep inside, a nagging question echoed. How could they ever rebuild anything so fragile? What do we do now? Lily finally asked, breaking the trance. James looked up, his eyes desperate. Please let me explain. I want to make it right. Eleanor swallowed hard, her heart pounding. Was it even possible to navigate through this new labyrinth of pain together? Would they even survive this latest storm? As Eleanor stared into James's haunted gaze, her mind raced. Could they really find a way to mend this shattered family once and for all? Or were they destined to remain entangled in truths too painful to bear? The air hung thick with uncertainty as they all faced a future that felt impossibly daunting. What should come next? And could love truly conquer even the darkest secrets? Eleanor struggled to breathe, the weight of James's confession pressing down on her chest. It felt like a wall was closing in, enclosing her in darkness. Her world had been crumbling around her long before he stepped away. Now to know it was because of choices worse than anything she could have imagined made her feel hollow. James's gaze darted between the two of them, searching for something, maybe forgiveness or understanding. But all Eleanor felt was the uncertainty swirling in her gut. You want to make it right? She said, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. How do you plan to do that? Lily stayed silent, her eyes wide, soaking in the gravity of the situation. Her father had shattered their lives, and the reality of it was sinking in quickly. You're talking like you have control over this, Dad, she finally said, her voice shaking. But you don't. You've already made those choices for us. I know that, James pleaded, desperation lining his features. But I'm willing to change. I want to show you both how much I regret it. Please just give me a chance. Eleanor felt her heart clench. She desperately wanted to scream at him, to unleash all the pent-up pain his departure had caused. Yet, part of her was drawn to his raw vulnerability. A flicker of something, a hope? Ignited. What do you expect us to do, James? That's not something you just fix overnight. I understand it's not, he admitted softly, but I've started seeking help. I've been in therapy. It's not just about regaining your trust. It's about facing my demons, the addiction, the people I got involved with. I can't do it alone. I'm scared. Lily crossed her arms, her expression firm. A protective barrier against the emotional whirlwind threatening to pull them in different directions. Scared doesn't make up for the choices you've made. We're the ones who have to deal with the fallout. The room fell silent again, each of them lost in thought. James took a tentative step forward, vulnerability etched into his features. What if I told you I'm already taking steps to make things right? Steps? Eleanor echoed, eyebrows raising skeptically. What does that mean? The damage is done. I know, he said with a nod, the pain of his words evident. But I've also been in contact with some people who I knew were dangerous. I have information that can protect us, perhaps help us recover. I owe it to you both not just to make amends but to keep you safe. Eleanor's heart raced, a spark of hope igniting against her better judgment. How do you even have that? James hesitated, a shadow passing over his face. I wish I could tell you everything. But we must tread carefully. There are still risks, people who aren't just going to let me walk away. The anxiety in Eleanor's chest coiled tighter. So you're dragging us into this? I never wanted to, James said, his face haunted. But I can't go back to the way things were. I need you both with me to give me the strength to fight back. Lily turned to Eleanor, her eyes wide with uncertainty, seeking reassurance. They were both exposed, raw to the elements of a long-buried relationship, now irreparably altered. What if this all leads to something worse? Lily whispered, her voice barely audible. What if we can't escape whatever darkness you've touched? James's shoulders sagged, his defeat palpable. I'm asking for a chance to prove that I can fight for us, that maybe we can emerge from this stronger together. Eleanor glanced at her daughter, their silent exchange loaded with uncertainty. Would taking this leap offer a glimmer of hope? Or were they simply stepping deeper into the abyss? As the night pressed on, each tick of the clock felt like a countdown to a decision they needed to make. Was their love resilient enough to withstand this monumental challenge, or was the chasm now too wide to bridge? Eleanor swallowed hard, taking a deep breath. All right, we'll give this a chance. But not because we trust you, she whispered, but because we owe it to ourselves to see where this path leads. Whatever happens, we face it together. James's eyes glistened with gratitude, but uncertainty lingered. The storm was far from over. Their journey was just beginning, and even amidst shadows, they each wondered, was trust something that could be rebuilt? Or was it destined to remain a fragile echo of what once was? Eleanor stood rooted to the spot, her heart racing as James's words sank in. They had a path laid before them, one that twisted and turned like a treacherous mountain trail. Her thoughts were a tempest stirring up past betrayals and hope for a healthier future. She could feel the weight of Lily's gaze, filled with uncertainty and fear, mirroring her own emotions. Okay, Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. What do we do first? James straightened, visibly relieved but still trepidatious. We'll start with the consultations. I have a meeting scheduled with a group that can help. They specialize in cases like mine. If we can confront the people I've wronged, maybe we stand a chance. Consultations? Eleanor repeated, her tone firmly edged with skepticism. You've put us in the midst of this chaos, and you want us to just trust you to handle it? I don't expect trust, he replied, sincerity in his voice. What I'm looking for is participation. I can't do this alone anymore. I need you two to hear everything so you understand the stakes. Lily shifted uncomfortably, her arms still crossed tightly against her chest. Is that really true, Dad? Because I feel like you've been making all the decisions for us for a long time. James looked defeated at her words. I know. This is different. I want to be transparent. I want you two involved. You both deserve to know what I've gotten us into. Eleanor moved closer to Lily, wrapping her arm around her shoulder. Honey, we may have to consider this, but it doesn't mean we've forgotten what happened. We can't ignore that trust has been broken. Maybe we just take it one step at a time, Lily offered hesitantly. The tension in the air thickened as they exchanged glances, each assessing the peculiar territory they had stepped into, an undefined area filled with fragility and hesitation. Eleanor could see the uncertainty in her daughter's eyes, a blend of fear and the tiniest embers of hope. It was a mix she understood intimately. I need you both to understand there might be consequences, James warned, voice low. People from my past are unpredictable. If they realize I'm trying to cut ties, his voice trailed off, leaving a chilling silence in its wake. What kind of consequences? Eleanor pressed, her protective instincts surging. Nothing I can elaborate on without putting us further at risk. Just know there are those who won't let me go so easily. Eleanor felt a knot form in the pit of her stomach. You can't make us part of this battle, James. This was your fight to bear. But you are part of my life, he said fervently. I can't shield you from what I've done. You deserve a voice in how we navigate this. I want to fight not just to save myself but for us. She felt Lily's breath hitch beside her. Eleanor turned to her daughter, imploring her to see beyond the confusion. It's about more than just confronting the past. It's about whether we can trust him again. Lily nodded, her face a mask of contemplation. What if we do this and things don't change? I can't promise that, James confessed, regret heavy in his tone. But I can promise I'll try. I just can't do it without you both believing that change is possible. Eleanor's heart twisted. Could they believe in him again? Could they believe in the concept of healing alongside the dangers lurking just out of sight? This is huge, she whispered almost to herself. There is so much we need to discuss. As the seconds morphed into a weighty silence, Eleanor felt the enormity of their choice gripping her heart. They were at a crucial juncture, each thread unraveling more than just the fabric of their family, but also the lives that stretched far beyond the three of them. The reality of their situation settled heavy across her shoulders like a cloak. They were stepping into the unknown. Tomorrow is the meeting, right? Lily said softly, breaking the heavy silence. What if we go together? As a family? Eleanor's breath caught in her throat, but she didn't know how reassuring it could be to stand united. All three of us? James asked, hope flickering in his eyes. Yes, Eleanor said slowly, determination clawing its way through her apprehensions. We face this as a family, whatever might come our way. But we need to be prepared for the worst. The air was fraught with tension as they silently acknowledged the gravity of that decision, feeling both the topsy-turvy nature of newfound unity and the storm steadily brewing around them. Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at the precipice of something monumental. Would they rise from this challenge or be crushed by it? And just as that thought entered her mind, a loud crash echoed from the window, pulling their attention. In the dim light, shadows danced, giving a fleeting glimpse of what might be lurking just outside their walls. Instinctively, Eleanor's heart raced. What would they do if the shadows began to reach inside? The day of reckoning dawned, a crisp morning that felt charged with electricity. Eleanor stood in front of the mirror, smoothing her blouse with a steadying hand. The weight of the previous night settled in her chest, but something else intertwined with her apprehension, determination. They had made a choice to face this together, to confront the man who had once shattered their lives. Are you guys ready? Lily's voice broke through Eleanor's thoughts. She turned to find her daughter, her face a mix of fear and hope, clutching her jacket tightly. Eleanor forced a smile, though inside her heart raced. As ready as we can be. They shared a look, a flicker of camaraderie passing between them. Today wasn't just about James. It was also about them, about standing tall and reclaiming their own story. As they drove toward the meeting, time felt distorted. The scenery blurred past, but Eleanor's thoughts stayed focused on James and on the secrecy she hoped to uncover. In the car, silence enveloped them, heavy and unyielding. It was as if the world outside held its breath alongside them. When they arrived, James waited outside, fidgeting nervously at the entrance of the brick building. His demeanor was a poignant reminder of the man who had once walked away vulnerable, hesitant, yet undeniably present. Today he wasn't just facing Eleanor and Lily. He was facing his past, his mistakes. Hey, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. That single word held so much fear, remorse, a flicker of hope. They stepped forward, each of them holding onto a different hope. Are you ready to talk? Eleanor asked, the weight of her question palpable. James nodded, eyeing the door behind him. Yeah. But we need to find a room. They'll help us, but I need you to understand that this won't be easy. I know, Lily piped up, conviction dripping from her voice. We're doing this together, all three of us. No more secrets. Inside, a small conference room waited, filled with chairs and a long table. It felt sterile yet comforting. Eleanor could sense the tension as they settled in. A silence punctuated only by the sound of the ticking clock overhead. They waited for a while until a woman entered, her presence warm and authoritative. "I'm here to guide you through this process," she said. After introducing herself as Sarah, she laid out the agenda, her voice a calming force amidst their swirling uncertainty. Eleanor glanced at James, who sat rigid, mouth pressed into a thin line. Lily caught her eye, her hand resting on the table. They shared a moment, silently rooting each other on. "James," Sarah spoke gently, "you need to start. You set this in motion. It's important for you to articulate what you've hidden, and for Eleanor and Lily to express how it has affected you all." James swallowed hard, his body tense. "I don't even know where to begin. There is so much I need to say." His voice shook, words choking in his throat like a dam about to burst. Eleanor felt her heart race as he hesitated. "Start with the truth, James. Everything begins with honesty." He looked at his daughter, then at Eleanor. "I ran away because I was scared of failing you both, scared of the man I had become. But what I didn't realize is that leaving was the greatest failure of all." As he recounted the twisted paths his life had taken, Eleanor could see the genuine pain brimming in his eyes. The emotions poured out, years of confusion, guilt, and a yearning for absolution that had been suffocating him. "I thought I could protect you by going away, but I didn't count on how deeply that would hurt you. I was wrong. I hurt you both in ways I can't even begin to fathom." Each confession felt like a weight lifting. The air grew lighter, though the work ahead seemed daunting. Lily remained quiet, her expression layered with emotions as she absorbed her father's words. "Do you remember the last time you saw us?" Her voice was steady, strong, demanding truth. James nodded, his response filled with remorse. "I remember the look on your face, Lily. I thought you'd be better off without me, and it haunts me. Every moment I have lived since then isn't enough," Eleanor finished, sadness lacing her words. "You can't take back the hurt you caused." "I know," he said, tears spilling down his cheeks. "But I want to show you that I can be better. I will seek the help I need, but I can't do this alone. I need you both." Eleanor's heart softened, but a protective instinct still flickered. "You must understand, trust isn't regained overnight. We have been through so much." "I'm willing to fight for it," he replied, his conviction ringing through the room. The hours melted away as James continued to address the past, laying bare his demons while Eleanor and Lily shared their grief and pain. They spoke of empty chairs during family dinners, of feeling abandoned, of sadness that ran deep, a shadow that colored their lives since he left. And one pivotal moment, Eleanor reached for Lily's hand, grounding both of them in the shared experience of healing. "Today marks a new beginning, but it needs to be built on truth and fragile hope," she said gently as the meeting drew to a close. Eleanor faced a choice to embrace this imperfect path they had embarked on together, or let pain dictate their lives further. "If we do this, it has to be together, with honesty at the core of everything." James looked down, then met their gazes, an unspoken understanding settling between them. "I promise I will do everything I can to mend what I've broken," he whispered, hope glazing over his vulnerability. And at that moment, surrounded by the weight of countless memories but also by the promise of healing, Eleanor felt a shift within her heart. Maybe, just maybe, they could lay the pieces of their family back together after all. It wouldn't be easy, and the journey ahead would certainly be fraught with challenges. But in this moment of truth, they took a step into the unknown together. Eleanor squeezed Lily's hand tighter, feeling the warmth of her daughter's presence fill the empty spaces that had lingered for too long. They were rising from ashes, transformed and beginning anew. Now, as they stood at the doorway of tomorrow, uncertainty lingered, but so did the flicker of hope. They could redefine their family, one honest conversation at a time. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. If you found this journey inspiring, leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach those who need to hear this message. And comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Show your support and be part of our growing community.